In today's episode of the Monk Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest with me here today. I'm with Hurriyeh Iftikhar, and she's hailing over as the VP of Marketing at LiveLike. And LiveLike is a very interesting product. We love to talk about experiences, online experience here on the Monk Presents podcast, and LiveLike is exactly in that space. There's sort of interactive experience in a very easy way. You can head over to livelike.com to get a feel on how those look like. Actually, very big customers leveraging the platform, La Liga, Canal Plus, so Fox. Super interesting what the guys are doing. But today we want to really deep dive into what Lifelike is all about in detail, and also how Hurriyeh is thinking about growth for the company. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lucas, for having me. I would just quickly start by telling a little bit about LiveLike. So LiveLike's mission has always been to empower digital experiences. And one of our goals to do that is also by increasing tech accessibility for other companies. So we are a B2B SaaS company. And what we do is we provide you with modular, quick, easy to integrate solutions with interactive tools. It's
Mhm.
essentially a 360 gamification engine, which very popular with the sports industry. And now we're starting to get into other industries just because the market fit is so relevant for all the other industries, such as e-commerce and fintech.
Yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit about the beginnings before we jump into
Mhm.
sort of the new exciting fields. You guys started off in the sports world. Like, how is it being used? Which types of pages use it, and maybe tell us about a typical use case in the sports world.
So in the sports world, it's usually used either in apps or on their websites or even on live streaming platforms. So having
Mhm.
influencer chats. So imagine if you're watching your favorite match in a sport that I won't name right now, and your favorite player or coach is in an influencer chat where you can actually have them talk to you or other members who got selected about what's happening in that match. Then you also have private communities that is your public chat where you're able to basically interact with all the other fans. The goal was to really bring the game and the sports experience to the fans, which is why initially we were all about fandom. We still are. And we're now expanding that fandom across the board. The reason why Live Like resonated so well with sports is because the nature of the industry it just comes so naturally to their audience. They're going to want more interaction. Sports fans are always demanding more. They want to be in the sports, they want to be in the know. And especially with the advent of the pandemic, the goal was to really keep them involved. So we came up with all these different fun interactive tools such as emoji sliders, chats, live polls, a very popular one, and then tie it all together with a rewards and loyalty system. When you are taking out the time to interact with something that you love so much, that brand would like to reward you for that behavior. And our goal is to provide those brands, in this case, sports companies, with that whole system and really just help them increase their user retention and to reduce user churn.
Mhm. For people who are trying to imagine like what types of experiences there are, like maybe give us a couple of examples. What would be a typical example?
So, a typical example, let's say you're watching a NASCAR event. It's happening live and you're watching it, you're streaming it. You also have a live chat happening on the side. At the same
Mhm.
time, there are quick polls that come in the in between when cars are moving around. Like who do you think is going to win? Who is leading? You're interacting with that. The goal is that while I, as a fan, am interacting with this, I'm feeling more involved and engaged with that game. Now, once I'm done with all of this interaction, what does that even mean for me? I get points. And with that points, a company like NASCAR can reward people. They can give you, let's say, points for private chats or influencer chats with your favorite driver actually being in that chat and you can talk to them, or even goodies. A lot of things that are super popular with sports is like giveaways, branded shirt, branded stuff. Uh, and by participating in all of these interactive moments, you can get points that help you qualify for those giveaways.
Makes a lot of sense. Very interesting. Okay. That is super interesting. So, who would you say within those organizations, we're in the sports world at the moment, who is actually bringing life like into the companies? Like, who is, is that an online marketer? Is that a product manager? Is that the C-suite? Who is saying, we need something like life like within our website or within our app?
It's always the C-suite. It's always decision makers. So CMOs, chief product officers, the ones who have budgets, who have that authority to make these decisions. Obviously, product managers love us and they would want to get us integrated, but our target audience is always senior executives who are actually able to make those decisions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you were saying it's growing. LiveLike is growing. It's growing beyond just being in the sports industry. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. You mentioned e-commerce, for example.
Yes.
How did that happen? Like, what is the story behind?
So all of these things have happened just from intuition. So the co-founders sitting together, and this is early last year too, when we were just discussing. I was a full-time a part of LiveLike back then. I was just consulting, and
Mhm.
these discussions came up that this makes sense for e-commerce. This makes sense for fintech. And we actually spoke to people because again, a good way of finding that product market fit is always that customer feedback. Let's go in the field, let's talk to people. Does this make sense for them? And because we had that network where we had senior executives from different industries, we actually went and spoke to them that, do you guys think this makes sense? Would you want this kind of interactivity? The number one goal on everyone's mind is to reduce churn, increase retention. It's great. Everybody focuses on that user acquisition, but what happens once you have that user? What do you
Mhm.
do to keep that user? How do you grow that loyalty with them? And that's what we wanted to empower. Um, we went on a couple of conventions. I know we went to some fintech events. One of the recent e-commerce events that our CCO Samuel actually went to was Shop Talk Live. I think this happened in Europe. And he was absolutely blown away with the response, the amount of people that came to the booth and the amount of people who were like, this is something that we need.
Mhm.
And the speed at which they need it is something that we empower because you don't need to hire developers and get a whole product team to get this. We'll give it to you faster, customized the way you want it for your brands. And then we're not just going to go away once you have that integration. We're there to help. We are part of your team. And I think that's what really resonated well. And that's when we actually started marketing out to everybody. And if you actually do head to our website, we have dedicated pages for each and every industry because of that growing demand to cater to those industries.
That makes sense. Very cool. How should visitors imagine it on an e-commerce versus, let's say, you mentioned a NASCAR race, right? It's different scenarios. In one scenario, I'm like maybe looking for a t-shirt and I'm shopping around. In the other
Yeah.
scenario, I'm spending maybe like 1 hour in front of the screen or 2 or 3 hours watching a race. You described the NASCAR example. How should people imagine the e-commerce example?
Well, think about e-commerce in this way. There are two ways that I look about it. So let's say you're out there and you're shopping for something and you add it in your cart. But why are you not checking out? It's been in your cart. How do I, as a brand, get that feedback from you without sending you an email and making like adding more steps in your customer journey? I can have an instant pull when you put things in your checkout. Are you just checking? Are you looking at things? Or do you want to buy more stuff like this? Would you be interested in a coupon? These are user insights. And one of the things that companies get is access to first party data. First party data is the most important thing in today's world. When you find out what your user is doing on your site or on your platform, it's essential. E-commerce is fast paced. It's not just about one time experience where a fan comes in and watches the show. This is about a fan actively going with an intent, somebody who likes your brand, wants something from your brand, or somebody new who just got exposed to your brand. Why are they on your website? Why are they looking at something? So it's bringing that interactivity. And then one way that we really like it, and we pitched it to some brands that I can't name, and they really liked it, is fashion shows. Imagine watching a fashion show and then having a live poll coming out. This also helps you with production decisions. So if you have, let's say, 1,000 people watching your fashion show where your new product is coming out online, and you have a live poll coming out on the side, that helps you make good production decisions. Did this product resonate well with this target audience, with this demographic, and how do you distribute it? I mean, the possibilities in that e-commerce section is endless, and the applicability of those insights is also endless.
Makes a lot of sense. Super interesting. Now, how do these folks, maybe in the e-commerce world, or in the sports world, maybe it's even different. How do they hear about life? Like, what's their journey like to getting started?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So with sports, it was easy because we were already known in sports and we had that network that was already established. With e-commerce, fintech, it was all new. So one of the biggest things that happened was that we had to update our website. Um, and let me just go a little bit before that. When I started at LiveLike, the first thing that I wanted to do was sit with the founders and understand if LiveLike was a person, who are they? What do they advocate for? And who do they want to talk to? And once I got an understanding of that, I wanted to kind of like mold that personality per industry, which is what we did with our new website that we just launched. I think it went live first week of March 2022, where we have dedicated pages and resources for different industries. And all of this comes from user testing. We were testing pages on the old website and, putting budget behind digital ads and getting feedback from people like, what else would you want on this page? And then once we were reading forms, we were understanding that, oh, this is the information that we are missing. So the quick answer to your question is that people who don't know LiveLike are hearing about us through our digital ads, but then we are also going to conventions and conferences where these industries are, present. So we can be known there and just have that knowledge building. So when it actually comes to growth strategy, where we are with sports and media is not where we are with e-commerce and fintech. So e-commerce and fintech, we are in market penetration. Sports and media, we are more in like a growth phase where we know who our audience are. They already know about us. We don't have to do brand awareness. We just have to do lead gen. But in the other two industries, we have to do brand awareness, educate the audience, and then go towards lead gen.
I think you bring up a great topic that a lot of marketers are wondering on the show. You mentioned sort of the brand awareness versus the lead gen. What would you say, like super simplified? What are sort of the key actions marketers have to do if they're sort of in brand awareness mode versus when they're in lead gen mode? Like, how do they differentiate in your perspective the actions the marketers do?
So for brand awareness, one of the biggest things and just to add to this, I come from a digital marketing background. It was digital marketing turned into marketers. So I am very familiar with vanity metrics. And I know a lot of time when people talk about brand awareness, they obsess over impressions and reach. That's not your brand awareness. Your brand awareness is your brand recall. How many people actually saw your ad and remember it? How do you measure that? It can't just be with one platform. It can't just be Facebook. It can't just be Google. It's your 360 marketing. It's about how many people make that effort that once they've seen something that was used for brand awareness, did they actually make an effort to come and follow your brand? Are they now actively engaging with posts that are going out with your brand? Did that user subscribe to your newsletter? That shows intent. Brand awareness is something that is so important, but also overlooked because sometimes you look at digital in the same way that we would look at a billboard that we've spent millions of dollars. It's out there. Everybody who's walking by that billboard can actually see, but that's not the point. How many people are going to recall what they saw and how many people are going to show interest? So I have that kind of approach where I want to look at brand awareness in the same way. I want to measure it by intent and action driven by brand awareness campaign. We did brand awareness for LiveLike. And one of the biggest things for us was let's measure how our efforts are increasing our LinkedIn following. We did not spend $1 for our LinkedIn following. We just did organic brand awareness, thought leadership, putting out content that we knew resonated with our audience, making sure that our content is giving them something, even if it's a blog post. How do you make a blog post more accessible? Not all the people want to read, put an audio clip on it. If they're on the go and they want to read your blog, they can listen to the blog. How do you make sure that what you're putting out there is resonating well? Do some user research. Who are your followers? Who do you want to follow your page on LinkedIn? We were able to grow our LinkedIn following, I believe, it was 1,100 and I think we're now 6,000 strong. And that happened in a period of 4 months without a single media spend on that platform. And for me, that insight from brand awareness is so important because that helps me understand that now that I've got people interested, now let's do lead gen at the same people because they're following my brand. So it's like one follows the other rather than just going blazing guns out and doing everything together.
Makes a lot of sense. Very cool. As we slowly approaching, after we've learned about what LiveLike is all about, types of customers you're working with, the industries that you're most excited about, I would love to learn a little bit more about your journey, and your journey as a marketer. I have a couple of rapid fire questions to get to that. But before we jump onto that, maybe where do you personally like to educate yourself as a marketer? There's so much content out there. What's your maybe number one go-to resource?
Well, I do subscribe to Reforge. I'm actually even taking a Reforge course.
Cool.
If you actually go on my LinkedIn profile, I always have this that the key to success is learning, be 1% better every day. So I'm actually learning about everything new every day, and we have to. I mean, this is the age of TikTok. TikTok did not exist 2 years ago. And I'm a digital marketer. I'm a marketer. I need to understand who my audience is on TikTok and how the same audience behaves once they see something on LinkedIn. It's like different personas, and you have to constantly learn. So I wouldn't say it's one resource. I think it's a constant learning just because we have to stay updated. Things are evolving at a very fast pace.
And I will pick you up on the word fast. I got some rapid fire questions. So you ready for those?
Yep, absolutely.
Good. What is the last book you read?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think I
What's
said the
one?
title right.
Mhm. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Lead gen, MQL to SQL conversion.
Mm. If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today? You have a magic
Hmm.
stick, no boundaries. What would you fix?
What would I fix as my role as a marketer?
Mm.
Um, I would learn digital marketing earlier on. I wish I had learned it. I wish there was actually a course in my university that would teach real life stuff. And I know like my university is amazing, but there's just like so many real life things that you face when you get into marketing. There's so many pitfalls. And I wish I knew that there's never such thing as a failure in marketing. Even when your budget collapses, even when the ad campaign didn't go well, you learn something so effective about what does not work with your user that you can apply. And yeah, that's definitely something that I would do. Just learn that before time.
Mhm. And actually, you brought up formal education there. Very last question. If we go back to the days of university, you're heading out of formal education into the world of marketing. What's the one advice you would give yourself?
Keep learning. Don't get too proud. I was one of those students. I graduated. I had a great GPA. I was on those lists, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take over the world. So be humble. Keep learning. You have to be a student every day.
Very cool. Lydia, I really appreciate you joined us for the Pathway Presents show today. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting that all that we discussed about LiveLike, what's the one thing that they should remember?
You have to empower your digital audience. You have to increase retention and reduce churn. Today, in today's world, 3 seconds is your mark. You have to convince people in 3 seconds.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathway Presents.
Awesome. Thank you.